Welcome to this week of the Mac and Fish podcast. Our weekend roundup segment will feature the discussions about the hirings at University of Auburn, Texas, and Illinois. We will also discuss which transfer made the biggest impact on the 2020 football season. Our final segment, Mac and Fish, will hand out college football awards.
What's going on, everyone? Thanks for tuning in to the Mac and Fish podcast. I'm Coach McKinley Roll, and I'm here with my co-host, Charles Fishbein, better known as Fish. Fish, what's going on?
Hopefully a lot better than last week. I screwed this thing up, so hopefully we're recording it, so we're in good shape. So,
all right. Also here with Corey Long. Corey, what's going on?
Not much. I mean, I'm still going to charge you for last week, whether it showed up or not. You know, that was a very good podcast. Nobody heard. That was a really good job.
It's all right, man. It's all right. It's all good. We're back, and it's gonna be better than ever this week, right? But we got a couple of things we're gonna hop into. Obviously, there's been a lot of movement as far as coaches and taking over programs. Want to get your guys' thoughts on hires that intrigue you, hires that surprised you, or just your thoughts initially on it. So Fish, Corey, whichever one you guys want to start.
My thing, well, you could, well, I'm going to talk about, the Auburn job and the Texas job, but, we talked about it a little bit last week, but we'll talk about it again, is Bryan Harsin, getting the Auburn job was kind of a surprise because, you heard all these names and he definitely wasn't one of them. I mean, they basically went through every coach, Billy Napier, Coach Clark at UAB. We even heard Steve Sarkisian, who ended up at Texas. But, Auburn, I personally, don't understand, their thought process. We've talked about this before, about the whole coaching thing. This coach is already on the hot seat probably with their fans, and he hasn't even coached a game. And it's one of those jobs that, I think they're a little bit unrealistic at that school. And they won the national championship with Cam Newton, and they also under this coach, they played for another national title under Gus Malzahn. And you just wonder what they're actually looking for in a coach. Like, what's their criteria to win at that program? Do you have to beat Alabama, 50% of the time? Do you have to win 80% of your SEC games? I just would like to know what they're looking for, because the coach they just had won a lot of ball games at Auburn. And they've lost a lot of games in the SEC, but he's had a lot of success, and they're bringing in a coach that's never coached in the SEC. One thing we learned was, though, that Auburn obviously isn't forcing the new coach to hire everybody that was left behind, because those guys are all looking for new jobs. And it's just, I'm curious to see what happens, because Harsin's a great coach at Boise State. A lot of the coaches that have come from that program have had a ton of success, whether it's been Dan Hawkins, Dirk Cutter, but they've also, Houston Nutt, they've also haven't had success. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens with Harsin at Auburn moving forward over the next couple years, and what he does with that program.
I think what Auburn wants is, Charles, you deal with a lot of when your line of work, a lot of kids, and you deal with their parents, and you every now and then you have that dad that can't grasp the fact that his kid's not an FBS player, not a D, and he looks at you and he thinks you're a magician. Like, I'll give you any amount of money, I'll give you a car, I'll give you whatever if you can help my son get a scholarship at Georgia or something. And you just can't do it because he can't run, he's not big enough, whatever. That's kind of Auburn. What Auburn wants, no human can possibly achieve. They want to be the greatest college football program on earth. And they're not even the greatest college football program in their state. And they'll never be the greatest college football program in their state. They'll never be Alabama because there's just an inferiority complex they can't escape. And I'll give you an interesting story of something that happened to me this week. Though I closed on a house, and the woman who handled my wire transfer at Mid Florida Credit Union. Her name was Dixie. This is no lie, Dixie, and she's from like Huntsville, Alabama area. So as we're talking, I go, so are you War Eagle or Roll Tide? Like you would ask any woman from Alabama. And she goes, I went to school at Auburn. And then I knew there was a but coming. I go, but, my family's been Alabama football fans for 100 years. So I guess I go with them and I'm a Roll Tide. Like even people that go to Auburn would rather be Alabama football fans. So it's like, so what they want will never be achieved. So Brian Harsin's a great coach. He'll do his 5 years. He'll probably win 65% of his games, and they'll fire him for somebody else. The reason they keep getting good coaches is because they pay well. At the end of the day, you just don't say no to $5 million a year. It's just it's at a certain they know what they want to do. Harsin wasn't their first choice. I don't think he was their 21st choice, to be honest with you. But he's a guy that they got. I think he's a pretty good coach. So I don't think it's a bad hire.
Do you think he realizes he's already on the hot seat?
I think you know what you're getting into when you take that job. I don't get the impression that he's gonna feels like he's gonna get treated any differently than Gus Malzahn was.
Yeah, but you're going into that job, and Fish, you hit on it last week. You're going into that job knowing that you're gonna probably get fired in 4 years. Because you're not gonna beat Alabama consistently. Jimbo Fisher is building a monster at Texas A&M. You're not going to beat LSU consistently. So that's your side of that side of the division. Then you look at Florida, UGA. I mean, it's like going into the Lions den, and I mean, he's a very good coach. I'm sure he's going to have a lot of success, but the people at Auburn want championships. They fired Gene Chizik, who won a championship for them. So let's be honest. I mean, that's a tough job.
Win is a relative term. Let's he was there on the sideline when Cam Newton won a championship.
No doubt. But the fact of the matter, he still was the coach. I agree with you.
Yeah, coach is a relative term again. All right, let's see.
But Corey
was on the sideline when Gus Malzahn offensively coordinated a national.
But Corey, most listen, they knew when they hired him. Listen, they hired him at Iowa State. He was like 6-30. So it's not like they didn't know that he wasn't the next coming of Bill Parcells here. All right. Like, so we understand that when they hired him, but he's like winning a national title, I guess got him very little cachet. They didn't give him much.
Again.
Yeah, I know. But you're all right. So you're basically saying if I was on the sideline, they would have won with Cam Newton. Listen, I got a big ego, but I don't know if I believe that. You talk about it. You spoke to somebody that is from Alabama, and she cheers for Alabama. It's kind of a different dynamic than Florida State, Florida, Miami, where the state's evenly divided among the fan bases. Like nobody monopolizes or owns the state of Florida. And I know fan bases among the three schools think they do, but they really don't. Where like Alabama and Auburn, Alabama's the number one school in that state, will always be the number one in that state. And like Auburn doesn't understand their place. It's like they're upset that they're number two. Well, you know what? That's like being a Clippers fan in LA. You know what? If you want to be number one, go cheer for the Lakers. If you want to be the number one school in the state of Alabama, go cheer for Alabama. It's not that Auburn's a bad school. I think it's a top 10 to 15 type program. They could compete for national titles, but they aren't Alabama. And that pressure of that for that coach, I mean, you look, Tuberville won, I think 6 or 7 in a row. The 1 year he lost, he got fired, and it's just, I don't know. It's unrealistic. This coach is going to be in the same position. They don't give people time. You can't have a down year at Auburn, and good luck. I hope the guy does well because he's a very good coach.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't lose any of those contacts at Boise State because he may need one of them in about 5 years when he needs another job.
And Gus Malzahn will land on his feet.
Oh, no doubt.
Tuberville, I hope he doesn't become a senator, but he'll land on his feet somewhere at some point. coaching again in a year or so. But I want to talk about Texas.
Let's talk about the biggest opening. And obviously it was filled by Steve Sarkisian. A little bit of my thoughts on that job. Obviously, this was done before it was ever opened, right? They had their guy. They knew what they were doing with Herman. I think the AD was giving them time to kind of work out the details and the contract and everything. They really didn't target anyone else. Obviously there was smoke about Urban Meyer, but Steve Sarkisian was their guy. Now, I think Steve Sarkisian is a very, very talented coach. I think he'll have success at Texas. But the thing that, I question and a lot of people are questioning, right, is, here it is that a guy that, had a program in Washington, had a program at USC. Obviously, he got caught up in, some, drinking or whatever the case may be, or some off the field deal, right? And was able to rehabilitate himself at Alabama. And now he has a great opportunity at Texas. You just don't see that opportunity given to other coaches, particularly minority coaches. And that's something that, I look at, and I'm sure other coaches, minority coaches look at that and say, hey, when we have gotten an opportunity to mess up, to fail 2 times at a job, really, really mess up and then get a great opportunity, because I work for Nick Saban. It's something you look at, something that I think that, needs to be kind of thought about. And it really, is something that I think a lot of major college football programs need to look at themselves and really, say, hey, are we really giving guys an opportunity to be successful and to give them an opportunity to coach at this level? And a guy having multiple chances to fail is what I'm really talking about. But Steve Sarkisian is a great coach. Like I said before, I think he's going to have a great staff there. Texas is going to give him the resources to be successful. They'll give him the time to be successful. I thought Tom Herman and Fish, you and I spoke about this. Tom Herman, I thought, did a solid job there. He didn't win enough for their liking. I think his record was like 32-18.
Yeah.
But that's not good enough in Texas standard. But as we speak about, are they going to tell Steve Sarkisian to recruit only Texas players in high school? If they do that, they're not going to have the success they expect.
If they want to continue to lose, they're going to limit where he can recruit. And it's not a knock on Texas. I mean, hell, Alabama, then they recruited like 6 of the top 9 players out of Texas this year. It's just, it's just picking the right ones, like with any place. So yeah, I think you'd be a fool if you didn't take, first of all, his ability to recruit quarterbacks on the West Coast. Tua Tagovailoa went to Alabama because of Sark. Bryce Young went to Alabama because of Sark. So you'd be a fool not to take advantage of his ability to recruit elite quarterbacks on the West Coast. And just his knowledge now, being around, the last few years and seeing what players in Georgia can produce and players in Florida and Louisiana and South Carolina and, places like that, and just say, hey, we've got to go where the winners go. So wherever Alabama and Georgia are grabbing their talent, we've got to carpet bag and go that direction. Sometimes that's going to be in Dallas. Sometimes it's going to be in New Orleans. Sometimes it's going to be in Atlanta. Sometimes it's going to be, sometimes it's going to be in, in New Jersey. And you got to be willing to go to those places. So, that's the main thing. Getting to your earlier point, I was, when you brought this up, it was like thinking college football needs a Rooney Rule, but hell, the NFL needs a Rooney Rule. They have one, and they can't even execute it. It's like they're now offering all right, if you hire a black coach in the NFL, we'll just put you in the playoffs once every 3 years. Like, they're just starting to just give them anything. Like, we'll give you 3 victories to start this season. Like, it's a joke. It's a joke, and it's not. I don't expect it to change. Our leader in the clubhouse right now is Michael Loxley, who's won like 11% of his games. And still manages he managed to actually like level up after going 2-26 in New Mexico.
Yeah,
ended up in Maryland, you know, which I think is one of the greatest.
Yeah, absolutely. But Corey, my point is to you is this, you know, let's look at the jobs that Mike Locksley's taken over. Right?
Yeah. Oh no, I mean, I'm not saying he's a bad coach or a good coach.
Yeah, I just don't think that's the difference.
He actually got a Power 5 job coming off like a 2-26 record as a coach, which is some progress.
Well, Maryland's a good job, or was a good job. I mean, at least you're in a recruiting area.
Yeah, he can win there.
You can win there, and you know, he could go get athletes and play in the Big Ten. You know, in the Big Ten, he could get faster guys than most of the teams in that conference.
Got the number 1 linebacker in the nation.
He got the number 1 and 2 linebackers out of the state of Florida this year. You know.
Yeah. So.
But I'm just saying it's not, you know, it's New Mexico. His first job that he took over, well, it was actually Illinois, and then it was New Mexico. And again, 2 hard-ass places to win at, right?
Yeah, here's the funny thing about New Mexico. He's the only coach to actually have a top-end recruit commit to New Mexico on national TV. So.
No, well, listen, Locksley's been a phenomenal.
He can recruit better than anybody at Florida State. All right.
But listen, Locksley's the best recruiter, one of them in the country. I mean, when he was at Illinois, he got the corner and also the tight end that went into the NFL. I mean, this guy landed elite guys. I remember, you know, he's always landed elite guys wherever he's been. So it's not surprising that he's having success. You know, I'm gonna jump in on the whole thing. I'm looking at Sark's record. He's 34-29 at Washington and 12-6 at USC. All right. There's not many other coaches that are getting another opportunity with that record. Forget Texas. He's lucky he's not starting back at Louisiana Lafayette. All right. And, you know, and Texas wants to win. And this is what I'm not going to say he can't win. I think he's a hell of an offensive coach. And he may have changed and became the second coming. All right. But his record don't lie either. All right. He didn't win. You go look at his record at Washington. He was a 7-6 coach every year there. Yep. Like Washington's a good program.
Yeah.
You know, at USC, he went 9-4, 3-2 before, you know, he's 12-6 total. So you didn't get to see what he was going to do, but it didn't look pretty in year 2 when he was 3. If you're going to fire Tom Herman, and you're gonna go hire a coach with a worse record, then I must have done the wrong things growing up, going to high school. I should have been an administrator, or I should have been a head college football coach, because I can't believe that people that make decisions at these schools are allowed to continue to make these decisions.
Yeah, but it's a Nick Saban factor, Fish. Yeah, it's a Nick Saban factor.
All right, so you're telling me some guy
smell on him.
Oh shit! So you're saying there's some guy that works in that cleans the locker room that should be a head coach at, like, you know, Westlake High School in freaking Atlanta? I mean, like, well, I'm gonna go beg for a freaking internship there just so I can move up. But will I get hired? Will I finally get hired? Wait a second. 247 has an opening for, like, now that Barton like, if I go get a job in Alabama, will 247 hire me to run their scouting and actually have a guy that knows how to scout now? You know, they'll actually have real good ratings instead of the bull. Hey, all right. I'm gonna call Alabama tomorrow and listen. I will take $20,000 a year just so I can get 150 at 247. All right.
Hey,
that's called playing the long game, and that's exactly what happens sometimes. I mean, if you look at
247, if you need somebody to take that job, I'm available. By the way, I'm begging.
Look at what the Nick Saban coaching rehabilitation program has done so far.
This is a good interview, by the way.
Mike Locksley, Lane Kiffin, you know, Butch Jones is back at a head coaching job.
No doubt. Hey, Corey, you're absolutely right. Yes, you go with Saban. You're gonna get there.
Saban coaching rehabilitation program work. Charlie Strong is right now.
Wait a second. Like, Herman won like 80% of his games at Texas. Like, he goes to Alabama next, man. He may be coaching like friggin' who's he gonna be coaching? The Dallas Cowboys?
The Vikings next for all
He'll get the Dallas Cowboy job.
The possibilities are endless when you get the magical, the golden.
Who does the Arizona Cardinal coach know with Alabama that he got the Arizona job after he got fired at college? Like, who did he know? There has to be somebody he's tied. I know he didn't coach there, but no, the head coach at the Arizona Cardinals. You know, like
Kingsbury.
Yeah, who did he like? He was like he was another guy that had like 5 wins a year at Texas Tech.
But again, you guys, I mean, you guys are missing the point. It's all about who you know and getting in the right time, and you have.
McKinley, I know a lot of people. None of them answer that phone when I ask them for a job.
I'm not missing the point at all.
Yeah.
They're not, remember, they're not hiring the Sarkisian that was at Washington. They're hiring the Sarkisian that's coaching with Nick Saban. That's the one that they're getting. You know, he's now a Nick Saban product. That's a whole different thing, man. That magic, that touches Saban. I mean, it carries a lot of weight. And you know what? It should. Because they're playing for their 6th national title in 12 years.
No doubt. Obviously, he's the best. In my opinion, he's the best coach that in my lifetime. You know, obviously next to Belichick. But you know, I mean, it definitely means something. It definitely matters. You know,
listen, there's no question. He's. I agree. I think he's the best coach of all time.
Yeah.
I mean, McCory talked about it before. What he's done at Alabama is like, you know, historic levels. You know, like people sit there and go, well, you know, they bring up this coach, that what he's doing is never going to be done again, and it's unheard of. Maybe.
Fish. What did we talk about the other day? We said you would hate to be the next guy after that job, right? Because you know your expectation level is going to be so unrealistic that no matter what you do, you'll never be Nick Saban.
Yeah.
In their eyes.
What's amazing is that how many coaches have told me it's hard to work for Saban, but they're all lying. They're all lining up for that. They're all lying.
Taking those $30,000 a year analyst jobs just to get in that rehabilitation program.
Hey, listen, he could cuss me out every single day because that check at Alabama clears every 2 weeks. All right, there's people I've worked for that have been very nice. That I'm still waiting to get paid for by. He can mother F me every single day.
But realistically,
there's nothing he could say, McKinley, that my wife, my dad, and family members haven't told me before about me. All right.
But honestly, if you go to Alabama and you work for Nick Saban, you're under his tutelage, whatever case may be, you're going to end up in a better position than when you came in. Period. I mean, every coach has done it, has gone somewhere, and they've had success. You know, I mean,
roll tide. I'm ready to go. I'm moving to Tuscaloosa.
Well, that Major Applewhite. He just never was able. He was not a graduate of the rehabilitation program.
Yeah, he must have missed the class.
He failed. He failed miserably. Apparently.
He did something wrong to somebody at University of Texas because honestly.
Yeah. Well, hey, let's the other job that kind of interests me, or I think will be I'm excited to kind of see him back in college football is Coach Bielema at Illinois. Obviously, we just talked about it's a tough job to win at, but I think he's going to have a great staff. He knows that part of the country. I think his style of football is going to work for Illinois there. Obviously, the Big Ten is, it's Ohio State and kind of everybody else, but he can have success. He can have success. It's going to be a tough league, but I think he's going to do well, and I'm interested in seeing how he does.
Yeah, I like the fact he can recruit the Midwest. Mm-hmm. I think Illinois is a place where you can play some big man football, and you know what he wants. He wants running backs, big linemen, pro style. And I think that area is you can get those sort of players. So I'm happy to see him back in the college game. I think the college game is better for it. I think he certainly can get Illinois to, a 7-win level pretty quickly because I think that style that he coaches, it's timeless. It might have a ceiling to it, but if you're going to get the right players to at least execute it and keep yourself in football games.
Yeah, I mean, you know one thing. He's going to recruit O-linemen, and he's going to recruit a back that can rush for 1,500 yards. The guy has, like you said, he has an offense that could win ball games in that conference. And I've known Brett a long time. I remember when he was an assistant coach at Iowa. This is a guy that grinds, and he's not going to – he's one of those guys that he's going to get the job done. You know, he won at Arkansas when they weren't a good program when he took over, and he went away from what got him there. I think that was the biggest mistake with Brett. You know, he was a power run football team, and a coach convinced him, hey, you got to go spread. And I think Brett understands his bread and butter is to pound the rock, you know, play action. We're going to control the ball. Not every team can go and run spread and try to score 50 points a game. You have to understand what your program's capable of doing, where they're located. You know, he's going to recruit the Midwest, but he's going to do something Illinois has not done in a while. He's going to come down to South Florida, and he's going to find some dogs, and he's going to bring those kids back up there, and those kids are going to win him a lot of football games, just like they did at Wisconsin. Mm-hmm. That's, you know, he's going to compete for a guy like Alex Collins at Illinois. He'll find one of those type of players that the SEC and the ACC schools are going after, and he'll out-recruit him and land that kid, and he'll get to that 7-8 win plateau, and I believe he'll turn that program around. I mean, they've been more competitive the last 2 years. They've been in a lot of closer games, so I think he's the difference between them maybe winning 5 games and then 7 or 8. You're talking 2 or 3 wins. Mm-hmm. So I definitely think Bielema will do a good job at Illinois.
Yeah, and if he does a good job, he's not going to stay there very long. I'm sure he's going to be, you know, poached by someone, you know, to get his next opportunity. But yeah, I know Coach Bielema, and like I said, I think he's going to do very well there. Now we're going to do our first annual Mac and Fish podcast, you know, awards for the season. The 2020 awards. We're going to hop into it.
You just want me to lose every coaching contact I have. No, because I'm going to have to pick coaches who are the best. And one coach is going to call me tomorrow and be like, hey, what do you mean? I can't coach?
No. Since I spent all week moving and didn't have a chance to research, just text me your answers and I'll take the answers and I'll defend them. So you don't have to. Want to do that? Just send them to me privately here on the Zoom chat, and I'll take them.
But honestly,
I don't care.
Honestly,
all right.
It's all in fun, man.
All right, let's go.
All right. So obviously, let's go with the.
Wait a second. Are we gonna have Insider of the Year, Nate Greer? Did Nate Greer get Insider of the Year?
Hey, man, don't get off my boy, man.
All right, he's gonna get once a week plug on our show. All right, Nate Greer is Insider of the Week. All right. Did he give you any insight this week? Is Terry and Arnold coming? All right, you go. You're good.
Hey, you're a rare form tonight, man.
Oh yeah.
So
let's go.
Play of the year. I'll go first. And you guys can give me your picks.
Yep.
I believe, and talk about your selection too, right? I believe this guy is the reason that we even talk about Mac Jones. This player is the best player in college football. He's shown it from week 1 to just this past weekend. Devonta Smith should be easily the Heisman Trophy winner. He should win every National Player of the Year award because he is clearly a far and above the best player in college football. I don't think it's close. He's broken every record at Alabama receiving history, and we know the type of talent that have come through there. They've had multiple first-round draft picks, multiple NFL players that are having success on Sundays, and he's broken every record. In a season, for the career, whatever you want to do, Devonta Smith is your guy. Fish, Corey?
I mean, yeah, you went first. I mean, Devonta Smith's my player of the year. And hopefully, you know, he's kind of thin framed. Hopefully he stays healthy in the NFL and has a long, productive career. Because I think that's the only thing that's going to keep him from being an elite receiver. the fact that you can't jam a receiver in the NFL or touch him anymore, and this guy's probably one of the top 5 route runners to come out in the last 15 years. Devontae's special player. I agree. I mean, Mac Jones should be, honestly, whatever money he's getting, he's going to ever make in the NFL, he should be given bonuses to Devontae Smith every week the rest of his life, because royalty checks should be coming to Devontae Smith from him, because the only reason he's going to have an NFL paycheck next year is Devontae.
Corey?
Yeah, I agree, and I mean, what's most remarkable is that when Jalen Waddle went down, you would think that, okay, Smith is going to get extra attention, face a lot more doubles, face a lot more difficult coverage situations, and he possibly did, but it didn't matter. No one could cover him anyway. So I think he's just electric, and what he did in the SEC championship game, what he did in the second half of the season, it's pretty phenomenal.
All right, let's go to transfer of the year. Okay, grad transfer of the year, whichever one you want to call it. Fish, I'll let you give me your pick.
I mean, D'Eriq King. I mean, he changed Miami's program. He brought a winning attitude there. He brought confidence in that position that they've lacked for so long. He brought stability. Miami ended up pulling a top-rated recruiting class because kids now want to play there again. He helped that program get to that next level. You heard, Miami, every year, Miami's back. Well, he brought Miami back this year. Yeah, they didn't play for a national title, and they didn't play in the ACC title game, but Miami was relevant this year because D'Eriq King. He made them talked about in a positive light, and it turned out now they have a great recruiting class coming in, and I think it helped them land probably one of the top quarterbacks that was out there, Jeff Garcia. So you see the positives all around. He had the biggest and greatest impact of any transfer this year, in my opinion, to any program that we've seen.
Agreed. Corey?
Yeah, you can't disagree with that. I actually covered the Cheez-It Bowl, which Miami played Oklahoma State in, and unfortunately he suffered a torn ACL on a non-contact injury, but you see the effect that he had on the team. You see the way the team rallied around him. And, talking to N'Kosi Perry, their backup quarterback after the game, and N'Kosi had, I think, the best game he had as a player at Miami. And he owed a lot of that to King. The King really taking an interest in him and helping him change his work ethic and teaching him how to work. And he said several times that, he owes a lot to King by just helping him understand how to take the job of quarterback much more seriously. So really, when I look at King, the effect isn't just in his play, which has been phenomenal. The effect is in how he's carrying everybody else with him. That's really where he's taken it to another level.
Yeah, no, I remember Fish, when you went out to a couple of Miami's practices, and King was out there, and he talked about how Coach Diaz had a different swagger about him. He had this kind of smile, and he knew what he had in D'Eriq King, and obviously the talent. Everyone was kind of buzzing. Down here in South Florida, the buzz was out there about what type of player King was and the effect that he was going to have on the program and the team. And you see it, it's evident. I don't think there's any question that he has had the biggest impact of any transfer for a college program. He's changed the direction of Miami's team, and he's going to make them a top 10 program next year because of his being there. I love him as a leader. You could tell that everyone is kind of galvanized around him. And the fact that they bring in a top-rated recruiting class, and they have, Coach Lashley, that, is one of the top, play callers out there in the country. I love to see where Miami's program, where they're going. I love the direction they're taking it. And I think King is a big part of that. So, yeah, it's no doubt I think King is the transfer of the year. With let's go to coordinators. So offensive coordinator of the year, who do you got?
I've got Jeff Grimes of BYU. You know how I've been all year on BYU. I thought they had one of the most dynamic offenses, very balanced. You got to see them in a bowl game. They could keep you off balance with their quarterback. They called, if it's 3rd and 8, he would dial up plays to get that first down. I thought BYU offensively could have hung points on any team in the country. They had one down week that kept them from an undefeated season when they played Coastal. But Jeff Grimes would be my coordinator of the year as far as offensively. I thought he did a phenomenal job with BYU.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Coach Lebby from Ole Miss. I think that for the production and the level of play, competition they go against on a weekly basis, you see the production they put together, the yards, the touchdowns. He has Ole Miss. I think they're number 3 in total offense, but they look completely different. They look completely different. There's a reason why, Luke Altmaier chose to decommit from Florida State and wants to play in that offense at Ole Miss. I think that has a lot to do with it. It's an offense that players want to play in. And I think Coach Lebby had a lot to do with that. Corey, you may have to be the tiebreaker here. Offensive coordinator of the year.
I'm going with the two-headed monster of Willie Corn and Newland Isaac at Coastal Carolina. And I'll tell you, what you end up finding is that when you go out to these G5 schools, especially the lesser-known G5 programs, you find young coordinators that are able to do creative things, able to do different things. What Coastal does with the triple option, running it out of the gun, running it out of the pistol, still having the old style Nebraska triple option keys and reads and stuff. I feel like I'm seeing maybe not the next great offense per se, but an offense that's definitely going to find its way into major Power 5 schools. Like, Charles and I are watching. I think we were watching the Coastal BYU game, and we're chatting, and it's like Nebraska should be running this offense. This is probably the best offense for what Nebraska's always done well, but updating it to where, you can get a better trigger man to do it. So, and I watched Coastal a lot this year. I really, even in the bowl game. So I just like that offense. I feel like it's just, I like the idea of seeing, you do have to go to the G5 or to the FCS, to Division II, to see the offenses of the future, to see what the next big things are. And I feel like the offense that they're running at Coastal is going to make its way into a lot of Power 5 programs, especially the ones that need to change up things to compete.
Yeah,
good
point.
And you could find the personnel to run it even more efficiently than Coastal does. Like the quarterback at Coastal isn't like some dynamic player. He's a good enough athlete. He has a slightly above average arm. So you could find guys to run that. And can you imagine having Lamar Jackson run that same offense? It'd be unstoppable.
And Willie Corn, a former top prospect, back in the day. I think he went to Burns High School, if I'm not mistaken.
Burns High School, yeah.
Clemson, and then he left Clemson to go down to an FCS program, and that's where he kind of learned a lot of that offense at. So, I love it. I love when I can see something new and something fresh.
All right, D coordinator of the year. Fish, Corey, who you got?
Fish, you start off with that one.
I've got 2 guys, so I'm going to give it to 2 guys the award.
Politician here, man.
Yeah, Mike Elko and Alex Greenwich, I think, are the 2 guys. I just think what they've done at those programs. Texas A&M 2 years ago. There's a reason why Jimbo wanted to hire Mike Elko at Florida State, and by the way, whoever turned him down on that decision, I hope it was worth it. But Mike Elko is a phenomenal coach. You watched him last night. How many times you saw 5, 6, 7 guys around the guy that was getting the ball? The tackling in this day and age of, where guys are missing tackles, this and that. Texas A&M is very clean on that side of the ball. They make mistakes, but you have to earn it against them. And they're very physical. I think you watch them, they punish guys after they get the ball. So that, hey, listen, next time you come in my area, this is what you're going to get. And I think what Alex Greenwich has done at Oklahoma and, the Big 12, the wide open offenses, he really struggled last year at times. Oklahoma, but they look like a totally different defense this year. They look like the Bob Stoops defenses that Bob Stoops had back when he took over from when he first got the job from Florida, and they won a national title. They have a national championship caliber defense now. And I really like what they do with the defensive end that used to play at St. Thomas, how he's become kind of that outside rush edge guy that could put the pressure on the quarterback.
Bonito.
Bonito. They're very aggressive on that side of the ball. You notice even their small corners cover well. Like you don't see their guys just getting, mossed all the time by that Bradley Hines kid must be 5'7". He's like 5'7", 5'8", and he flat out can cover. I mean, guys don't get open on him. So I think if you take this guy and what he's done at Oklahoma and the other guy's done at Texas A&M, both of them have top 10 defenses this year in the country. Texas A&M was 9th. Oklahoma's was a lot better this year. They got up in the top 20, I believe. So I think both of those guys deserve coordinator of the year for defense.
How about you, Corey?
Brad Lambert at Marshall, who I thought Marshall had a really bad offense this year. They had a good record. Their offense was atrocious.
Well, we're doing defensive coordinator, I think.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
All right.
Let me finish. Thank you.
All
Their
right.
offense was bad. And I mean, but you look at what Marshall did. I think they were number 1 in scoring defense for most, if not all, of the year. Lambert was a Broyles Award finalist. They took Conference USA, not always a conference known for defense. So they were able to really manufacture a heck of a season by playing a lot of 14-10 type games. And, late in that season, Marshall was undefeated, I think, through 8 games. And late in the season, when their offense predictably gave out against that powerhouse known as Rice, they just couldn't hold on anymore. But I thought I thought their defense was smothering. And at that level, they just killed teams on D. Very aggressive, very sound, good tackling bunch. Lambert's a former head coach. I think he was head coach at Charlotte for about most of a decade. So, he brought a lot of that, knowledge and intensity to a program where he had, Marshall's always going to have some pretty decent athletes that slip through the cracks, and he did a very good job with them. I would not be surprised to see him in a better situation in the near future, if he decides to just stay a coordinator.
All those guys are worthy. I like every one of them. I'm leaning more towards Elko and Greenwich because I just feel like the level of competition they see. Obviously you can't, put that against Marshall. They play who they play. But I'm going to tell you guys who impressed me and whose stock is extremely high. He was a Broyles Award finalist. Is Marcus Freeman.
I knew you were going to say that.
I'll be honest with you. He earned a lot of money in their bowl game. They're running the Okie front, the things how aggressive those guys are. I just love everything about it. He's very engaged in what he's doing. The players, they play with confidence. They fly around to the football. That's what you want to see in the defense. They ranked top 15 in 5 categories nationally, defensively. He probably will not be at Cincinnati next year because he's going to be able to pick where he goes as far as a coordinator, and he'll probably be in line to be a head coach if he continues to have success he's having. But I really like Marcus Freeman and what he's done at Cincinnati.
Yeah, he's on the radar. Auburn, LSU, Ohio, a lot of top programs are interested. So,
yeah,
we'll see where he ends up. Don't go to Auburn.
No doubt. All right. Coach of the year. Corey, we're going to start with you. Who you got?
Jamie Chadwell. You go undefeated at Coastal Carolina, you're the coach of the year. Sorry, Jamie Chadwell. That's not even. Luke Fickell's right there too, but I think we all know what Luke is capable of. Jamie Chadwell came out of nowhere, and he's out there running like a 5'8", 300-pound center, You know, that is a island of misfit toys at Coastal Carolina when you watch them. And you know, then watching their first game of the year against Kansas, you realize that on that island of misfit toys, they have some really legitimate, you know, a couple of kids that I think will end up playing on Sundays. But overall, I just think what he did this year, where he did it, is pretty incredible.
Mm-hmm. I'm gonna go, Fish. I'm gonna hop in here. There's two guys on my radar. Corey, you know, Coach Chadwell, he definitely deserves accolades. So does, I think, Tom Allen could be considered there as well. But I'm going to go with, I have two picks too. It's not a politician, but it was tough for me. One, James Jimbo Fisher. All right. Elite coach, elite recruiter, elite motivator. Just everything you want. I mean, Texas A&M, what he's done at Texas A&M, the staff he's comprised, the way they were the only team I think that had no opt-outs that played as far as in the bowl games, and not a significant, you know, in one of the major bowl games as far as, you know, in the playoffs. He had, arguably they should have been in the playoffs. Texas A&M has been in the top 10 in recruiting the last 3 years. They're gonna rank in the top 5 nationally this year. They're gonna finish up there. You know, sometimes we think about, oh, how did this, you know, the lesser type programs, you know, they moved up the rankings, but what Jimbo Fisher has done at Texas A&M has been remarkable. He's a great man and he's a great coach. So Jimbo Fisher is one of my coaches for Coach of the Year. The next one is Matt Campbell. If you can win at Iowa State, and the things he's done there, I mean, and he's won consistently. He's beat the Oklahomans. He's beaten the Texases of the world. And he just finished winning the Fiesta Bowl at Iowa State. Remember, the quote that I think rings out to all of us in the football world is, we don't have 5-star players. We have 5-star culture. And he has those guys believing in Iowa State. Now, I don't think that he's going to be there very long, and I think Iowa State, you know, I don't know how long he could have the success that he's having at Iowa State, but Matt Campbell is the job he's done there is nothing short of remarkable.
Wait a second. First off, did you say Jimbo Fisher? I got to check my headsets. You said Jimbo, right?
Yes, sir.
All right, wait a second. I need to ask you, did Jameis play for Jimbo this year?
No, he didn't.
Oh, did they lose to any teams that were the lesser than them? Like, did they lose any of those games this year that he always finds a magical way of losing?
No.
Oh, man. I thought Jimbo couldn't coach.
Oh, without Jameis. He can win without Jameis.
He can't win. Yeah, that was the whole thing. He can't ever win without Jameis. Listen. If he could win, let me just say this, and nothing against Kellen Mond, because if I ever meet him, I don't want him to punch me in the throat. But if he could win 9 games with that kid, man, I mean, even like Mons' parents were thanking Jimbo last night. Like, thank you, man. You made our kid respectable. But yeah, I mean, listen, you know my feelings about Jimbo. I think he's a phenomenal coach. I think he's a top 5 coach, and he deserves all the credit he deserves. I'm going to go with Luke Fickell's my pick. And here's a guy that built himself into a great coach. You know, he wasn't given – it's not like he took – you know, he was at Ohio State for 1 year. He didn't have a great year. I know there was a lot of circumstances that didn't favor him, but he didn't have a winning record. And you wondered when he went to Cincinnati, like what type of success he would have. He kind of got off to a slow start. But I think he's learned a lot and become a great coach. I think he's worked hard to do it. Some guys are naturally just great at what they do. I think he's worked hard to get to that same level. And I think he's done a really good job of making sure that he's going to pick the job that's for him. A lot of guys, you know, want to rush up and take the first job that opens. He's doing his due diligence, and I think it's going to pay off in the end, kind of like he's kind of done the Kirby Smart way of doing it. Yeah, Kirby was a coordinator at Georgia, and he waited, but he's doing the same job as a head coach. I think Matt Campbell's kind of doing the same thing too. don't just take any job. Make sure that you can continue to do it your way and have that same success, because you look at Scott Frost. Scott Frost was the guy 2 years ago. And I think Scott Frost is a hell of a coach. I think he could go somewhere else and win a lot of ball games, but he tried to bring that same formula to UCF, to Nebraska that he won with the UCF, and they're totally different programs. You have to adapt, and he hasn't adapted, and hopefully he does adapt. But you look, he brought all his coaches, he brought all his administrators, he brought his secretary. There's a reason why a lot of schools don't want you bringing everybody, because some of those guys aren't to that next level. Me and Corey have talked about this, and we've discussed this, is some people aren't meant to move up. They're good. They're fine right where they're at. So you got to make sure that, Matt Campbell's got to bring that system to a school that can adapt, that will accept everything he does. Because if you look at their defense, it's not a conventional defense. That's not something that's going to work at every school. I don't think they have a D lineman over 250. They mix stuff up. They move guys around. They're very aggressive on that side of the ball. Well, you're not going to be able to do that at a lot of schools at a Power 5 school. You're going to have different personnel. So he's got to make sure that he could get the right personnel and everything that fits his style at that next school. And I agree. Matt Campbell's deserving a Coach of the Year. I'm going with Luke Fickell. I'm sure Corey will jump in, and I think he already gave us. All right,
but Fickell turned down the Michigan State job. So, like you said, Fish, I think he is going to
but I think
going for the right spot.
I think he saw that there was problems at Michigan State. Yeah. Michigan State had problems. He could have got they had a lot of issues off the field at that program. I think the coach actually that was there this year did a decent job after they had a bad loss to start the year. But Michigan State isn't ready. Like, it wasn't a good situation for him. He would have had to start at the bottom again and rebuild that thing. Like, Fickell deserves to go to a job that's not a rebuild. He's done a good enough job that he should be able to go in there, and that job's already established as a decent job. And
it's weird. I feel like, and we're at a point where I'm not sure what Brian Kelly's win total is at Notre Dame, but we all know that Notre Dame gets kind of weird when you approach the wins record, because, oh God, what's his name has the wins record?
Duke Rockne?
Duke Rockne has the wins record, and it's like, you don't touch
Duke
Rockne's record. So I wondered if both Luke Fickell and Matt Campbell are eyeing that Notre Dame job, and it's going to become like a Ali versus Frazier situation.
Where is Brian Kelly going?
Well, this is a thing. I'm gonna jump in, McKinley. Mm-hmm. I've heard Brian Kelly on Colin Cowherd's show at least 2 or 3 times, and the one thing he's brought up, that Notre Dame has a shelf life for a coach. He knows it. He said it. Yeah. He's like, listen, this isn't a 20-year, 30-year job. He goes, I'm not going to be there that long. He goes, you can't coach at Notre Dame but like 10 years or 12. Like, there's a shelf life, and you got to get out. And I think he understands that. Like, his ceiling was this year, maybe next year. But I think Brian Kelly has looked for a way out. I think if something else came open, I know from somebody that I'm friends with, he was interested in the FSU job when it came open. I'm not saying he would have taken it, but he has his feelers out there.
Don't say that. Don't say that. Don't say that.
Listen, that comes from a coach that I know that was going to be on his staff. So he was interested. I'm not saying he interviewed or he was one of these war champ made up stories like Bob Stoops. But, hey, listen, man, we don't blow smoke up people's butts here on the Mac and Fish podcast. All right. We got 3 straight shooters. You want BS, you go to the National Enquirer and listen to that crap. All right. There was a better chance at freaking Mangino getting the FSU job than Bob Stoops. All right.
But also, wasn't PJ Fleck interested too in the FSU job?
He was interested. I don't know if they ever called him.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if his phone ever rang.
I got you.
But getting back to the situation, 105 wins. That's what Newt Rockne has. They push. If you want some precedent, they push Lou Holtz out.
Yes, they did. And what's Brian Kelly at?
Yeah, and Now I know Kelly there was a couple of years that don't count with his win total that they had some NCAA issues, so he might be in like the 80s.
He's 81. He's 81 and 39 right now.
All right, so he's 81. So you're looking at 2 more seasons. So
yeah.
I'm gonna go out there and say that I think both Fickell and Matt Campbell are eyeing. They're like, 2 years from now.
Well, I think that's one of the jobs that PJ's interested in. I mean, PJ's. I don't know.
He got to win a few.
Hey,
his belt
y'all better hope that Urban doesn't want that job.
Urban's going to be the coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Okay, pal. Urban's already the Jaguars coach. Urban sees that NFL money.
And he sees freaking Trevor Lawrence too, man. He's like
family money.
He's like, this is my Tom Brady, and I didn't have to discover him. All right, he didn't fall off the scout team with the Patriots. All right.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Well, the last award.
We got another award.
Last one, and this is a little unique. This is a Recruiter of the Year.
Oh, was it the guy who recruited the players?
Yeah. So I'm going to. I'll lead this one off. I did my little research on this, and this is. I think this is unprecedented. I've never seen this before from a recruiter.
Right.
You guys let me know.
Did you call Josh Newberg and ask him like who?
No,
who won the award for 247 recruiting?
No, I don't ask Josh for anything.
All right.
But this guy landed 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 5-star players and 1 4-star player. Coach Charles Huff from Alabama.
I know Coach Charles Huff. He recruits Dade County, Broward County. He's a great guy.
He's gonna be able to, and whatever school he wants to go to in the future. He's at Alabama now, but I'm gonna tell you, he's gonna always have a job.
You're saying he's gonna re-up my recruiting service out of pocket this year?
Absolutely, because he.
Can I take credit for Recruiter of the Year then? Because I deal with him.
What position does Huff coach? What's his
running backs?
You know what? FSU has a tight end position open. Pay this guy $1 million to be a tight end coach.
He's not leaving Alabama.
He ain't leaving Alabama.
What do you mean? $1 million to be a tight ends coach, the first $1 million tight ends coach ever. Just give him, just so you can have somebody that can recruit.
Hey,
County.
Listen. Lance Thompson once was Recruiter of the Year for getting Julio Jones. All right, so he landed Julio. That's what he'll tell you that he landed Julio. I don't know if he actually landed him, but it says on his resume he landed him.
I don't know, but I think that's more Nick Saban landed Julio, but and the governor of Alabama.
Oh man, McKinley actually got on a computer and looked for something. He got us.
Man, don't do that. Don't do
that.
I do my research.
He does this
Back Fish podcast, okay? And I do.
Hey, Corey, you
when
buy
I'm
that?
able to watch and analyze things.
Corey, you buy that?
Yeah, I don't buy it
at all. Hey, you guys are haters.
You know what?
Haters.
Hey,
Fish, you were hating on my boy Nate. And Corey.
Hey, everybody
on FSU.
Everybody on the message board says I'm an ass, and then they hear these podcasts and say I'm not as bad. They're like, man, is that the same Fish? They don't realize I'm bipolar. I take my medicine before I come on this show.
Oh man. Anyway, we're gonna do next week. We'll do a preview of the national championship and kind of go in depth about that. You guys have anything else you guys want to touch on or talk about?
Thank God 2020 is over. That's it.
Yeah, we made it.
We made it.
Hey, if you guys want to follow us, we're on YouTube, SoundCloud, Anchor, Spotify, as well as on Apple Podcasts. Love you guys to listen. Tell a friend about what we're doing, and just give us your feedback. We'd love to hear it. Thanks.